got it?
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, Donald? How you doing, man? Good morning to you. Hey, man. No problem.
Huh?
Just talking online.
Oh.
No problem, bro. Waiting to see if some more people going to jump on here. Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Good morning. Before I get started, if those of you who have already joined, if you got any questions from stuff we've talked about in the past, feel free to ask. Trying to wait for some more people to join on before we get started. If not enough people join on, then we'll come on at a later time. Give it a few more minutes. Do I have a routine I follow when it comes to songwriting? For me, my songs come in parts. Very, very few times do I have a whole song come to me all at one time. So no, it's not a routine for me. I've written a piece of a song, and then a year later I write the other piece. I'm one of them people that has to be inspired to write. And if I don't have time to write, most of the time I'm not writing or arranging. I'm just basically doing some things off of previous writing or arranging. I arrange in spurts, so I may do something for a long time, and then not do anything for a while. So hope that answers your question. What's your routine? Good morning to people who are joining on. We're just waiting for a few more people to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. It's 11:10 a.m. So you keep a recorder and notepad on hand. Well, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, let's talk about internet versus terrestrial radio, and then people can view this broadcast a little later. Internet radio is still, I guess, I'm a little surprised that it's not a bigger phenomenon than it is now. How you doing, Ashley? But it's not. People are, internet radio is still struggling with listenership. Of course, as your listenership gets bigger, you got to pay for more space if you're an internet radio station owner. Cars and other vehicles are slow to give us Wi-Fi so that we can listen to internet radio in our cars like we do terrestrial radio. So that has contributed to the slothful growth of internet radio. And yeah, how you doing, Wanda? It's good to see you, big sis. It's contributed to the slow growth of internet radio. At one point when it got started, and my buddy Henry Harris is one of the first people in gospel to have an internet radio station. And they made receivers for internet radio stations back in the day, but people are just not gravitated to it because most people listen to internet radio when they're at work or they're in a stationary place. But when you're on the go, terrestrial radio is still the preferred method of listening. Even though internet radio, in most cases, because of the current climate in terrestrial radio and a lot of our stations, internet radio plays a much more wide variety of music. I think in doing so, people may feel like some of the music that's played on internet radio may or may not feel that some of the music that's played on internet radio is not as good as the music that's played on terrestrial radio. So I know a lot of internet radio station owners who have, who are very selective in the music that they play now to make sure that their music is up to par, that the artists that they play have great music to listen to as well. So in saying that, The topic is internet versus terrestrial radio. If you don't know what terrestrial radio is, that means that's radio that's played over it's the main radio that we hear every day, that you listen to in the car or on your stereo set if you still have a stereo, or you can even listen to a radio station now over your phone. And a lot of terrestrial radio stations have internet radio now, so they've kind of taken a bite out of those who were individual internet radio station owners, because now you can listen to them in your car, and you can listen to their station on your phone or on your TV. So people are doing that instead of listening to independent owners who own internet radio stations. So it's very, very hard. And now we have this interesting dynamic of Facebook Live, which you and I are on right now, which is contributing to the demise of, I think, the future demise of internet radio. So people will say, hey, as an artist, do I submit my music to internet radio, terrestrial? What should I focus my attention on? Well, I always say everything is good. So focus your attention on both internet and terrestrial radio, but don't just do one. There are people who do listen to internet radio. Internet radio station owners are much more friendlier in some cases. They're faster in reviewing and putting your music on air. So, that's always good. A terrestrial radio station, you may wait anywhere from 30 to 90 days for your song to be put into rotation. And then if you're an independent artist, it's a light rotation at that. Unless you're well known, then they'll give you a shot, maybe up your rotation in the beginning. But most time the rotation is upped by people calling in or people emailing in or tweeting in their support for your song that was aired on the radio. So I say do both. And to those internet station owners who tell you that internet radio is the way to go and you shouldn't spend your money with terrestrial radio, well, they're obviously not artists. They're not business owners. They're not record label owners. So, a record label owner or somebody that's in the business of this music and getting your music played would never tell you to do one over the other. They would tell you to do both, because all is necessary. If people are listening to anything, one or two people are listening to anything, you want your music on there. If it's gospel, if it's Christian, or whatever your thing is, inspirational, you want your music on there. So you want a wide variety, a wide scope of airplay. Get it wherever you can. Don't choose one over the other. If anybody tells you otherwise, then they're obviously not in the music business as it pertains to promoting and selling and manufacturing digital or physical records. Okay, just know that. It's just not, they're just not involved in it. Because if anybody tells you anything other, then you choose one or the other, then you're cutting your audience off, your potential audience off. So moving on from that, how do you choose the right radio promoter? I've had experience with a lot of radio promoters. I would say the first thing you need to take into account is how far are you willing to go? How much money do you have to spend on radio? A lot of people are in shock when it comes to spending money on radio. They are just like, I didn't know it cost that much. Well, radio can cost anywhere from $500 a month to $3,500 a month, depending on who you choose. You're basically paying for connections. You're paying for the person who already has previous relationships with these radio DJs, especially when you're paying the upper echelon of money. I would say upper echelon is anywhere from $1,500 up. You're basically paying somebody to get your product on that station, to get it reviewed faster, because they know these DJs, they deal with them every day. And $1,000 on down, you're dealing with probably a lesser connected radio person, but still effective, because if you get somebody that can work with you for a lower cost, then you can go longer, and you can help them out. You can be of some assistance to them, and y'all can plan a strategy that will really, really work for you. As an indie, unless you really, really have planned well financially and things like that, you shouldn't expect to try to get into the top 30, and all that kind of thing, because it really takes a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of time to do something like that. and you need a radio person who's well connected to get you to that point. So, and to get in the top 20, you gotta have Radio One, which is extremely difficult for independent artists. So, you know, in choosing the right radio promoter, you wanna choose somebody that can fit the bill for what you're trying to get done. The second thing is you want to choose a radio promoter that has actually likes your music. When you send them their music, watch for the responses they give back. Is the response if they start coming back to you and they don't tell you that they really like your music, they like who you are, what you do, then they're more than likely to be unwilling to put their all into your music. They have to like you. I like to choose people who like me, who like what I do, who like what I represent. So when I'm paying you all this money to promote my single or my and to all these radio stations, and I'm taking this gamble, I want you to actually like what I do, because I'm going to be more successful if you like what I do and you like my music. You will go to bat for me for some of these harder DJs who don't necessarily, who are hard nuts to crack in terms of adding music or new music, or people they don't know, or even people they do know, but they're not necessarily great fans of your music. So, yeah, they have to really like you. I think the third thing is that you have to know what their track record is. Especially when it comes to independent artists. How many independent artists have they pushed? It's a good idea to talk to some of those people to see what their experiences have been with that particular radio promoter. And watch some of the negativity that comes out, because some negativity that comes out from artists concerning radio promoters is unrealistic. Some of the comments they make I found have been unrealistic. Artists sometimes they have this misconception that if you spend all this money and you give your single to this radio promoter, that you're supposed to have a hit. That's not necessarily true. A hit is based on the favor of God, and it's a gamble at the same time. And you got to have a great song. And not everybody doesn't have a great song. You may have a good song. You may have a song that's okay. You have to have all those facts, and people have to really, really, really gravitate to you. You have to have all the oars in the water, marketing, promotion, all that has to be working at the same time to have a hit. Because, as I said yesterday and the day before, people only like to get on a train that's moving. If it ain't moving, they're not going to get on the train. And some DJs only jump on your song after it hits the top 30. So it's a long road. My friend Charles Butler hit the top 30 about 2 weeks ago. He's been playing on radio for a long time. But it took just 2-3 weeks ago, he hit the top 30. And he's been at it this year with this song, Make It, for a long, long time. So it takes a while, unless you're like a mega star, to get in the top 30. An experienced radio person will plan your ad date. So they'll plan your ad date. So they'll say, okay, they'll start maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks off, and be like, they'll call their friends up who are DJs who they know will probably add your song the quickest, and say, listen, on this such and such date, if you like this song, can you add this song on this date? And if they can get 8 to 10 people to add the song on this date, then that will in turn give you a big boost on the chart. You'll be on the most added, all that stuff, all the categories on the chart, single most played. And then other DJs who are skeptical about you or who don't know you will take notice of that, and you'll have a greater chance to get added to their station. Some stations only add you once they see you've been added elsewhere. So it's a gamble. Radio promotions is a gamble, but if you believe in yourself, if you have a great song, go out and get some advice as to the effectiveness of what you have. And look at your plan and say, can I afford this? And in choosing that radio promoter, look for somebody that has some good reviews. But when you get a negative, when somebody gives you a negative review on a radio promoter, always do research to see if the negative review is justified. A lot of them are. Some radio promoters do things that you just can't detect. Like, for instance, if a radio promoter has a bunch of A-list artists on their that particular person is working for, they will promote them first and then take your CD and put it in the bag with theirs and send it off to a radio person. So they're charging you $1,500 to put it in the bunch with the others. So they're not really promoting you personally. They'll just say, hey, you know, while you're playing this Donnie or Smokey here, that I got this new Donnie McClurkin I got in my hand, here's Phillip Carter as well. Hey, take a listen to that if you can. You know, if you like it, let me know, blah, blah, blah. Because Donnie McClurkin is a bigger paying customer. His company is a bigger paying customer. So they take yours, add it to the bunch, and you may or may not get the proper attention that you are paying for. So you want to be wary of that as well. You really can't detect that, but if you do your research, you'll know if a person represents a lot of A-list artists, more than likely that's pretty much how you're going to get treated. And it's not, and it's almost unpreventable. If I was a well-known radio promoter getting paid $2,500, $3,500 a month from major labels, here you come along, I can make an extra buck from you. You give me $1,000 a month because that's what you can afford. I accept it. You know, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to take care of my biggest paying customers first, and then I'm going to slide you on in and try to do my best for you. You know, but it's really not my best. It's just my best for you at $1,000. You understand? So there are two ways to go. Again, you can hire somebody you can hire one of these promoters that are less connected that will work hard for you, but more than likely you're not going to be, you know, getting top 50 and below is going to be a stretch. But it can happen if you have a good plan and strategy, and you hit a lot of these B market stations and a lot of these stations that are reporting but are not as strict or more willing to play independent artists. If you get some of them on board with you, then you can really make you can make some headway. I've had clients to have some amazing chart positions with a few stations, a few DJs that were willing to come on board. You you also want to take into account the radio promoters list. When they send you a list of who they send it to, do your own research to see how many stations on that list still exist. Because most radio promoters do not update their list as often as probably they should. So some of them stations may change formats and things like that, change music directors. So when you go to conventions and things and you see these people and you ask them, hey, you got my music, and they tell you, no, we don't have it, you know, you'll know why. Because either the station is not in existence anymore, or they're not, they've changed people who are in charge of reviewing music. So I say a lot in a nutshell. Is there any questions? Anybody got any questions concerning radio promotions and or internet versus terrestrial radio? You need them both. If you're just tuning in, you need both internet and terrestrial. Concerning radio promotions, you know, you want to consider how much money you have to spend, and always think of a long sustained campaign over just, you know, 60 to 90 days, especially if you really believe you got a hit on your hands or something worth really going, or you willing to go to bat for you know, for your ministry. Brian, you said, what do you need to do? You mean in terms of getting a radio promoter? First of all, how you doing, Brian Spriggs? I'm sorry. What do you need to do in terms of getting a radio promoter? Or what do you need to do? You know, I have a list of people. I mean, Wanda Patterson's on this thing. I think she may be doing promotions. Wanda, tell me if you're doing promotions or not. It depends on how much money you spend. If you contact me individually, I can give you a list of people based on how much they charge that will help you push your product, and that are pretty good at what they do. So yeah, Wanda's on here. She does radio promotions. I know Wanda personally. She's from Jacksonville, Florida. Great person to work for. She'll work hard. To work with. She'll work hard with you, and she's also a great industry consultant in terms of helping you with other areas of your music ministry as well. So Wanda Patterson's on here. Contact her. Inbox her. You know, and if she can't help you, she can point you to somebody who will as well. Another friend of mine, Cynthia Portier, is on here. She's a radio angel from Florida. She can help you. She can point you in the right direction. Some of these DJs, let me tell you another thing. I call DJs sometimes and ask them, who should I get to promote my record? If they like my record, the greatest advice, I called Lee Michaels one day from WCAO in Baltimore. He called me and said, man, you got a hit song in your hands. At the time, it was I Love the Lord. He said, call this person. I think this person can take you to another level. And he did, and he gave me the advice I needed. And if he hadn't called me, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So sometimes the DJs will tell you who's fake and who's for real. So you know what I'm saying? Call, do your research. Figure out how much money you have to spend. If you want to hire some of these big dogs that are charging $3,500, they can get you in the door. Because if the DJ don't like it, they'll pay him off. And that's just the truth right now. They can get you in the door, but you got to have that kind of money to spend. The gospel music industry is a music industry. Some of y'all sometimes we need to take gospel off of it because it ain't too much Christian about it. The business side is business. And you got to learn how to do business, and sometimes you got to take your personal Christian feelings out of it because it ain't really got anything to do with it. Okay? It's business. And if somebody doesn't want to play it, but they say, hey, you slide me a couple $100 because my station's in trouble or I'm in trouble. Sometimes they do. If that's what you do, I don't do it. But if that's what you want to do, you can do it. People are doing it every day. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. You've been ready to oh man, that song is so anointed, it's so appointed because it's number one, blah, blah, blah. You'd be surprised how it got to number one. And get this, just because it's number one on the charts does not mean it's number one in sales. We should deal with that later. Because charts is a game. Sales is the real deal. How many people are actually buying a record? So a song can be number one in charts and be nowhere near close to number one in sales. Why is that? We'll deal with that on another broadcast. But there are a couple of radio promoters that I really like across the country. Everybody's got some dirt on them. Everybody's got some dirt on them because nobody's going to be satisfied with all that you do, and everybody has had to twist and turn some to do this business. So don't think you're going to find a lily white radio promoter. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You call out a name, I'll tell you the dirt. And they'll probably say, you call out an artist, Phillip Carter, I'll tell you the dirt on him too. But it takes dirt for seeds to grow. Amen. So, any more questions, feel free to inbox me. I hope this has been informative. I'm gonna try to keep my broadcast a little shorter, especially for topics like this that don't require a whole lot of talking. So, inbox me if you got any questions. All right, God bless.